Why did we start Nirec? It was because we began to see signs of a beginning of a sense of division of the country along religious lines. Every now and again, government will summon Christian rulers and Muslim rulers when there was a major crisis and ask them to come to the barracks. They will go sit with president and discuss, and they say, okay, go and make peace. They'll go and make peace and return. But nothing stable. So we thought it's about time we find a way of coming together among ourselves.
I'm convinced that it's God that told me that night when I sat with the president, Obasanjo, one evening, the two of us seated together. I said, hey, Mr. President, I believe I'm getting an idea from God here. Anytime you establish this council of religious body in Nigeria, their lifespan is not more than a maximum of 3 months to just die naturally. This time around, my own suggestion is that we religious leaders will come together on our own and then seek the blessings of government.
Nirec was supported and encouraged by the then President Olusegun Obasanjo, who saw the body as a wonderful project emanating from the leadership of both major faiths.
What I did was to dialogue with the then president of the country, Chief Obasanjo, on the issue. All what he did was to prepare the grounds for me and my team by calling the Sultan of Sokoto to be ready to receive us and the governor of Sokoto State. He also provided with a plane to take us to Sokoto. And when I arrived in Sokoto, the reception was just unbelievable to welcome us to the Sultan's palace. And the Sultan had assembled a number of Muslim clerics and imams.
The creation itself was of interest to me because we had all sorts of conflicts, some religious in nature, and whether it's ethnic or religious, there are two major religious adherents that you will find: Christians and Muslims. Is there a role that the leaders in these two religions can play to dampen the issue of disputes, violent conflicts within our community? And in other words, to make peace and create harmonious community. And I believe there is. But I did not believe that government should be the one to establish it. That it should be established by the leaders of the two religions themselves, but with encouragement from me as the head of government then. I was interested, but I did not make it a government affair or a government establishment.
When President Bank put forward his proposal to the Sultan, that time the Sultan was Machido, that this is what brought us. We were asking for suggestion, is it possible for us to be having this kind of a meeting? The Sultan replied, we have been thinking of the same thing also all this time, but you have gone ahead of us. We were wondering, when can we meet you people and discuss this matter? Now that you have come to us, you are most welcome. What you want is also what we want.
So we dialogue and we agreed to form Nirec.
The Nigeria Interreligious Council, Nirec, is a voluntary association formed by the representatives of the two principal religions in Nigeria, Christianity and Islam. Established on the 11th day of September 1999. The establishment of Nirec was occasioned by the incessant ethno-religious crisis which punctuated the socio-political landscape of Nigeria as a country. Nirec, also known as a council, is a permanent and independent body established to provide religious leaders and traditional rulers with a variable forum to promote greater interaction and understanding among the leadership and their followers, as well as lay foundations for sustainable peace and religious harmony in the country. The council from inception was co-chaired by their eminences Alhaji Muhammadu Machido, CFR, the late Sultan of Sokoto, and Dr. Sunday Mbang, CON, former primate of the Methodist Church of Nigeria, Archbishop J. Akinola, CON, who were one-time presidents of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, respectively. The federal government, under the leadership of the then president, late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and later President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, like their predecessor, continued with the policy of support for Nirec since 2007. Under that dispensation, Nirec was initially co-chaired by His Eminence Alhaji Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar, CFR, MNI, the Sultan of Sokoto, and President General, NSCIA, and His Eminence John Cardinal Onaiyekan, CON Emeritus, Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, and National President, CAN, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, the former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, became the National Coordinator and Executive Secretary. His Grace, Pastor Ayo Orisha-Jafo, CFR, a former CAN President, was a co-chair of the Council from January 2011 to 2016. At present, His Eminence Alhaji Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto and President General NSCIA, and His Eminence Reverend Dr. Samson O.A. Ayokunle, National President, CAN, co-chairs the meetings, while Father Professor Cornelius Afebu Omonokwa is the Executive Secretary.
The Nigeria Interreligious Council, as you are all aware, was set up by the two leaders of the two major religions in Nigeria, Christianity and Islam, voluntarily. No coercion, no influence of the government whatsoever. Why? Because we feel, as Muslims and Christians, we must be close to one another, because we are the two major religions in this country, and we must understand one another, we must live in peace.
Spirit of fairness has been keeping us going. Without this type of discussion, the violence that is available, that is going on virtually all over the world, and the terrorist activities will have been misinterpreted, and they will have led to war that will have consumed the nation without Nirec.
Coming to Nirec as the Executive Secretary, the Christian Association of Nigeria wrote to CBCN, and CBCN responded that they will allow me to take up the job. I saw that as also another big challenge, because almost all the members of CAN endorsed me. I would say I got 100% votes. So it means that I would not take my work for granted as a Nirec Executive Secretary. Nirec is an outward side of government interest in promoting peaceful coexistence. Their mandate was to assist government
to do the needful. And practically, seeing the Sultan, who is the President General of the Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, and the current president, see them together has a lot of message to give to Nigeria. The Muslims will now know that if there is conflict, these two people cannot be together. The Christians will now know if there is conflict, these two people cannot be together.
The funding of most Nirec activities is handled by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, with support sometimes from host state governments and donations from some well-meaning Nigerians.
I call him the big boss, came as the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, we have become much more visible and stronger as a body due to the support of the federal government of Nigeria that funds all our activities through the SGF office. And we have an office under the SGF.
Your positions as religious leaders put you in good stead to carry the message from government to all adherents and our communities. I must emphasize, and frankly too, that time is critical to this mission. The nation has experienced several challenges, including a spike in banditry, insurgency, kidnappings, killings, and drug abuse. This calls for a review of approach and strategy in this mission. My charge is therefore to call on this body to review the state of the nation and recommend ways to improve on the accomplishment of our set objectives.
All the meetings of the council from inception were held in Abuja. However, when the present council was reconstituted in 2007, members resolved that the meetings of the council should rotate in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country on quarterly basis to impart positively among adherents of the 2 principal religions to further promote religious tolerance, peaceful coexistence, ethical values, and good governance in the country. The annual adopted Nirec meetings entails 4 quarterly general meetings, 2 youth seminars, and 2 meetings for each of the 8 Nirec subcommittees, which are Research and Planning, International Relations, Education, Dialogue and Peace Building, Publicity Policy Issues, and Finance.
The conflict in Transamadi, where it was alleged that a mosque was demolished, that conflict, Nirec went into it. We invited the chief imam from Port Harcourt and other stakeholders. We were able to find the truth. When it was alleged that over 100-year church was going to be demolished in Kaduna State, Nirec went into it. When there was killings in Jos, Nirec did not just make effort. We practically went there, myself, the current president, the Sultan, the secretary to government of the Federation who were there. But I want to say that there is a lot the co-chairmen of Nirec are doing quietly that people don't know. The calls that the Sultan make to Muslims are the call that the current president make to Christians to make sure that there are no reprisals wherever there are conflict and violence. And very often, these conflicts are not even religiously motivated, because religion is actually on trial. Ethnicity is on trial. Who is trying them? Greed. Because a lot of greedy people are using religion and ethnicity to fuel their pockets. And I think that Nirec is actually achieving its aim.
Nirec has collaborated with international organizations to reduce the menace of malaria and other diseases through the Nigeria Interfaith Action Association, NIFA.
The relationship between NIFA and Nirec is that NIFA is the baby of Nirec, And NIFA is the brainchild of Nirec, so they are inseparable in perpetuity. So His Eminence the Sultan and His Eminence John Kandalo Naiko accepted our invitation through CIFA and came to World Bank program in Washington, D.C. And we shared with them the pain that Nigeria was going through, which many people didn't pay attention to, that malaria is the biggest and highest killer in Nigeria than any other disease. And so we signed an agreement with the Federal Ministry of Health to mobilize the whole Christian community to fight against malaria.
Nirec is also in partnership with King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz International Center for Interreligious and Intercultural Dialogue, KAICHID, and UFOC Dialogue for Sustainable Peace and Religious Harmony in the country.
KAICHID actually has established Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace to complement what Nirec is doing. The partnership started when KAICHID came into Nigeria because it started from consultations. We have a number of projects that Nirec has suggested to us and we are looking into, quite a number of them. For example, Nirec wants to train its own council members in interfaith dialogue. Nirec wants to train its committee members, because Nirec had committees. We want to train committee members in interfaith, interreligious dialogue. Nirec wants to train youth in Nigeria across all the 36 states in interreligious dialogue and dialogue generally. Quite a number of them, about six of them that we're still talking, still looking into to see how we can partner. The current president and the Sultan of Sokoto coming together, and the likes of the Sheikh of Borno, and the likes of the Emir of Ilorin and stuff like that, people like that, coming together to form organizations like that. And they meet regularly. And we see them meeting, and we see them collaborating with each other. That symbolic thing is enough, honestly, to make people think that, look, I mean, some of us who follow them, to now think that, look, if these our leaders can do this, why should we be fighting each other?
Nirec has done a lot of things with Ufuk Dialogue, especially, and also we are organizing for example, scholarship. Some of the important people, some of the government officers or church staff, and also mosque staff, we are offering 95% scholarship to study peace and conflict resolution study.
Nirec is affiliated with the following bodies: African Council for Religious Leaders, ACRL, and Religions for Peace, RFP. Nirec is a vital body that is required in the running of Nigeria.
Without Nirec, many things wouldn't have been as good as they are. I have seen Nirec issuing joint statements that address contemporary issues in the country, whether issue of same-sex marriage or issues of government policies or National Assembly passing a law in the country. Nirec come with stabilizing position that helps government on one hand and also help Nigerian citizens on the other.
Nirec has been able to muster courage to call for prayers, both from the Muslim end, from the Christian end.
We are coming together at our quarterly meeting to discuss important things like how to move Nigeria forward and how to have peace in our country. So we as mother, we always make sure that we teach our children, good way of life, so that the children will be able to fit into society as expected of them.
We are bound by a common humanity. Whatever color we are, whatever religion we profess, we are all human beings, and we are accountable to the Almighty Creator.
Nirec has done very, very well. In fact, I dare to say that Nirec has done beyond the number of years it has come to stay. Because a child at 20, you will agree that is still young. But I think Nirec at 20 is performing like an adult that it should be. Nirec also has opened the door for religious leaders to discuss freely the issues, the differences, and coming to terms. And I think we have learned through Nirec to understand ourselves better.
Nirec has been able to provide the needed veritable tools for us to stabilize religious crises in Lagos State. And we have Nirec even in the local government. So we have taken it to the grassroots, really in Lagos State. And that is what we are planning to replicate even at the national level, so that we'll be able to live together. It's when you live in harmony, you think of progress and you talk of progress. But when there is crisis, it's a setback.
The beauty of Nirec is that it has allowed for a listening to one another. There can't be any progress in society if we don't learn to listen to one another. In Nirec, we do the listening. Now, it is another thing as to whether or not we do the practicing. There we have a lot of work to do. We have listened to one another many times, but we have not sufficiently carried out our common decisions.
When you look at social media, I think we find Nirec is very absent on that level. I think Nirec needs to be more deliberate in getting to the youth and getting the youth to get to each other. The generation gap between the leadership of Nirec and the current youth, I think, is very wide. And while it is important that there's a youth wing, we need an inter-youth wing. We do need young people on the main body of Nirec to inform discussions at that level. Just as it will be good to have a few of the older ones on the youth. They say nothing about us without us. It is important that we are inclusive in all we do.
Nirec had contributed a lot in promoting religious understanding and in ensuring that we are on a path to, real peaceful coexistence.
The more we dialogue and the more we are honest and sincere with ourselves, we'll be able to come out better and get the nation on the front of, in the place of progress.
I believe if Nirec has bigger purse, to handle, to take care of so many things, they can do a lot more. And I'm also wishing that Nirec should go to the grassroots and then seminars and conferences where people on the streets can be invited and can be impacted.
In Islam, we have a lot of sections, denominations. Likewise in Christianity, we have a lot of this. So these groups now have to be brought together. And how do we do it? By the time we, at the hands of Afia, may meet, we should be able to go down, all these denominations, then request them or urge them to understand each other. And when it comes to national issues, when it comes to those issues that bind us together, they should be rather promoting those issues rather than using it as a tool to divide the nation.
I believe that in the Nirec, we still have a lot to do with the youth. We need to educate the youth. We need to take these messages to the youths, across where we are now. Because we cannot be speaking here while some people are somewhere, they don't understand what is going on here. So we need to take the message to them. And that is our work in Al-Bayan as well. And that is what the Nirec stands for.
Nirec, what they have done in Nigeria almost 20 years, but we have to focus more and more activities together. Then we have to organize more activities to bring in people to understand how to live together. It is very important.
There has been progress, but there is still much to be done. I think what Nirec needs is to keep building on its gain, keep learning from its mistakes of the past, keep identifying its strength and building on it, and also avoiding or working on reducing what constitutes its weakness.
The present context of the nature of life for the average Nigerians is forcing us to remember that security has no religion, that COVID-19 has no religion, and that we must therefore work together to make peace come for our country.
We should see ourselves as Nigerians, and we should live as one, look toward the development of the nation, economically, politically, and otherwise.
The way Nirec is now, it has taken it's now part of the national political space. And I believe that we will be able to manage whatever challenge will come on board. I'm hoping that in the future, every community will be aware of the existence of Nirec. Christians and Muslims will be able to work together to promote love and peaceful coexistence.
Nirec is fulfilling its mandate, and it will continue to fulfill its mandate as long as face-to-face dialogue continues and the leaders are very faithful and committed to implementing decisions that are taken, and also they are ready to talk frankly to one another on areas, gray areas that should be addressed and ought to be addressed.
Let's come together, please close ranks. Throw away politics when it comes to dealing with all these issues. And inshallah, this country will be a much, much better country than it is now, than it will ever be.
I urge you to discuss and agree on how to deploy the media more effectively in the pursuit of Nirec objectives. I must thank the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Spring Council for Islamic Affairs for display of maturity and commitment to national peace and stability at trying moments.
I believe that the Nirec leadership from now on should work very smoothly and harmoniously together for the unity, the security, the stability, and the inclusive society within our nation, Nigeria. Keep making meaningful contribution to placing Nigeria where it should be nationally and internationally.
At Nirec, we will continue to contribute to promoting religious understanding and ensure that Nigeria is on a path to peaceful coexistence.